GennaRose, and I'm gonna read some poems from two different projects that I've been working on. The first one is from a chapbook that I wrote in collaboration with a poet from Chicago, where we wrote poems in the form of letters back and forth. And we wrote this out at an arts residency out in Nebraska called Art Farm, Nebraska. Very self-explanatory title of a place. And I wrote in the voice of a fox, and he wrote in the voice of a barn, which is less cute than it sounds. But, so these are some of the poems that I wrote as fox to barn. Dear barn, everything is a prayer out here in the flatlands. Billboards made mirror in the night rains, moon ballooning over the interstate, rest stop bodegas with the proud posture of chapels creaking in the heat, cornfields and copperheads and the tumult of my own claws chattering against asphalt. I am enthralled with travel's gospel, with the way my body hums when it moves. If you could see me now, you would not see me at all. You would find smoke pluming from an empty bed. You would find my shadow like a sundial loping across the earth. You would find my silhouette lingering in silos and in attics where I paused only to doze or to eat or to consult the atlas before passing through, as I once passed through you. A footprint, a trace, a trick of the eye. Dear barn, foxes have many tricks for throwing hunters off course. We tightrope along fence rails and dry ridges where the wind tugs the thread of our scent and unravels it. We cloak ourselves in sheep, perfumed in the flock. We retrace our own steps, then leap sideways, and the hunters follow the straight path to ruin. We build masks, coat ourselves in soot and milkweed, burn our maps, burn our luggage, burn our paw prints slick. At dusk, we find track dogs asleep, and we crawl into their mouths and possess them and bark false orders to the pack. We shapeshift into hunters' wives and lie with them. We jam muskets with goose bones, with cake flour, with wax. Whittle the barrels into flutes so that the rifles, when fired, sing so sweet that the hunters and their dogs waltz amongst the trees. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, until they have forgotten us, and their names, and the path home, which is the one thing a fox never, never forgets. Dear barn, a man in a bar once told me he was down behind the freight rails, the sour lines by the lake where no trains go, and he saw a woman in a white slip standing in the water. He knew she was a ghost because living women only wear white on their wedding day, and no one gets married anymore, not around here. She reached into the wet with both pale arms, then snapped back as if spring-loaded, a trout viced in her hands. She bit its belly, still threshing. That's what happens when folks don't lay down roots, the man said. They can't tell when to quit. The man told me he left town after that. Learned to fix broken tractor belts so he might work as inland as he could. He had a knack for machines. Anything with an engine or a key to pocket or a thumbable off switch. Whatever he could walk away from and be sure that it wouldn't follow. So, yeah, those are the barn poems. And this next section that I'm going to read, I just finished like a week ago writing this manuscript that I've been working on, which is a mythical bestiary of all like creatures I made up. Are you guys familiar with bestiaries as a form? Where it's so, in the medieval era mostly, they would write these encyclopedias essentially of different animals, but they were also sort of like allegorical and moral tales. describing animals in ridiculous ways. My personal favorite was they were describing the hedgehog and wrote that the hedgehog is the obstinate sinner, covered all over with the prickles of sin. And then they also described how the hedgehog like rolls in grapes to like stick grapes to itself and then goes to feed its children the grapes, which just isn't true or what hedgehogs do, but every illustration in every bestiary of a hedgehog shows it with like grapes stuck to all its face. So anyway, I wrote a bestiary and these are all like imagined creatures. So I'm gonna read a bunch of those beasts. The first one's called the Delalinea. The Delalinea is best known for its musk, a sweet perfume akin to rose water met with honey and smoke. Serpentine with a golden headdress, it makes a home in the blackberry thickets, building its nest in the briar. Poachers hunt it with long iron hooks, so they may bottle and stopper the scented oil that is tucked in the hollow behind its eyes. For those foolish enough to purchase a vial of Delalinea oil in a back alley medicine show, ennui is inevitable. Merely a dab upon the wrists will drive the wearer to abandon their sweethearts and children. They will lock themselves in attics and do nothing but carve strange glyphs onto the walls and refuse all food save for sweet cakes and elder wine. When the perfume is spent, they will scramble for years along esplanades of foreign cities in search of a peddler carrying the perfume. They will never find one. Mockingloo. Mockingloos are indistinguishable from rivers. They lure thirsty bucks and wildcats to drink from them. Once ingested, mockingloos lay eggs in the animals' bellies. 3 months later, the eggs unlatch in a violent flood, fledglings ribboning out from the host's bodies in eager tributaries. There's a simple test to tell the difference between a river and a mockingloo. Toss a small handful of cake flour into the water. If it froths up like spittle gone rabid, it is a mockingloo in disguise. Waxlings. There are freshwater waxlings and saltwater waxlings and holy water waxlings and hot water waxlings. Physically, they're largely indistinguishable from each other, though freshwater waxlings have an extra row of teeth behind the bottom set, and hot water waxlings are slicked in a protective coat of mucus. Otherwise, they share the same brassy scales, stub snout, and webbed hands. While finding a holy water waxling in a sacramental font is considered to heighten the potency of baptism, hot water waxlings are little more than household pests. Homeowners must be attentive in keeping all boiling pots lidded and drawn baths well monitored, lest a waxling take up unwelcome residence in a lavender soap or a butternut squash soup. Sano. Sanos perch on the telephone lines and listen through their feet. As the town's whispering rackets back and forth from wire to wire, house to house, Sanos grow plump. They are gluttonous eavesdroppers. Before telephones, they stalked telegraph operators and postmen. Before that, they crouched on poets' shoulders and clustered around broadsides nailed to pub walls. They have always heard us. Sanos like bad news best. Not out of cruelty, there's simply a fattiness to the moment a person realizes the worst is here. A buttery quality, muffled, as if dipped in batter. How we doing? Good? Alright, cool. Keels. Keels are useless at running. Being so stubby-legged, they tend to trip over their own droopy ears. They are an easy catch for a wolf or a fox. Having no practical means of escape, the keel has developed another method to avoid being devoured. At night, a keel will track down a pack of predators and nuzzle against the mass. It will whisper compliments into their ears as they sleep. Oh, pretty monster, I love you the way the moon loves blinking. You are more beautiful than a violin. You are the only poppy in the garden. We are married, and I'm hanging clean white linens on the line, oh my strawberry, my creek bed. As it mutters, It rubs its small flanks against the danger. It slips away before sunrise, cloaked in the enemy's scent. When the predators awaken, they are lazy and sweet, and no matter what they do, they cannot muster the sharpness to hunt. Got a few more. We still good? Still with me? Cool. The Yoon. Yoons were human once. They nursed babies and baked bread and made love beneath the shade of the willow tree. Then they were drowned in the bog on the edge of town. The marshlands kept them flawless, their skin tanned tight as a drum skin, sealing their spirits inside like caged dogs. Snarling against their enclosure, the ghosts grew frantic, then foolish, then sick. By the time the bodies rose out of the silt, the ghosts had been trapped too long. They had become something new. There's an urban legend about a Yoon that snuck into a high school party. Some kids were playing spin the bottle in the root cellar, and the Yoon joined in. First, Lily spun and had to kiss Ryan, then Ryan kissed Dale, then Dale kissed Nadia, then Nadia kissed the Yoon, and when she did, the Yoon's ghost slipped through its parted lips and into Nadia's mouth. It slithered down her windpipe and into her lungs, where it made a new home with Nadia's own ghost. Now, there aren't many girls with two ghosts in one body, and she became quite the local celebrity. Talk shows brought her on to hear her bicker with herself in dead languages she had never been taught. They would hand her then a small porcelain dish, into which she would cough up a mouthful of mud. Wilk. A man has fainted. There was not enough air in the room. The Wilk came and sucked it all out. The man made a mistake calling the Wilk there. He hoped it would make him feel good. It had been too long since the man had felt anything good at all. So he filled a small china dish with saffron and yarrow root and corn husks, and then lit a beeswax candle and held the flame to the dish so the contents fizzled and spat. And he called out the Wilk's call, which we cannot repeat here because we mustn't summon the Wilk. And the Wilk, as it always punctually does, appeared. Then it breathed in deep until all the air was gone, and the man passed out. When he woke up, he asked the Wilk what had happened. "You had a great time," said the Wilk. "A real doozy of a time. Hell, best time you've had in months." "But I don't remember anything," said the man. "Well, ain't that just the way," said the Wilk. Then the Wilk punched the man in the shoulder, like old pals will do, except harder, before disappearing. Loris. Some people say the loris looks like a man. Others say a hare. Others compare it to a stone, or a silver coin, or a bowl of milk, filling and emptying and filling again. It hovers just above the horizon line, a nocturnal animal nibbling at the fatty dusk. When it grows thirsty, it tugs the tide towards its lips. It is easily insulted, so don't mess with it. Call it by a false name, and the loris will make all your exes call you on the same night. Yes, it has that power, and yes, it is that much of a jerk. In the ancient times, scholars worshipped it. They studied it through telescopes. They logged its movement across the sky in little notebooks. They didn't realize it was alive. I'm just going to read one more. Thank you guys so much for being here and listening. This is so lovely and great. And thank you to GennaRose for hosting this. It's awesome. So this is another one from the Barn series. Dear Barn. Nope, that's not it. Almost read a poem I already read you. Whew. Here we go. Dear Barn. This morning, I woke up in you surrounded by bones. Not your bones, nor those of your feed, but little parcels coughed up by the great horned owl. Remnants of field mice, spine, hip, and fibula. jaw toothed open like a doll's comb, a fine gift, fit for a silversmith or a bead merchant. I fill a pail and dissect them beneath the spigot, then match like with like, vertebrae columned here, claws there, skulls set aside in the sunlight dapple at the tabletop's crest, for they are surely the most beautiful of all, like plums' pits sucked clean of fruit. For I, swallowed by a winged titan, find the pellet and peel out my tail. I don't care what you use it for, a necklace or a horsewhip, a mobile or a chain, whatever you need.